It's Valentine's Day and you want to cook your sweetheart something real nice. This beautiful duck leg ragu with a chili chocolate mousse will impress. And if you want to learn how to use the whole duck, I have some bonus tips at the end of this video if you stick around. First, get yourself a nice, gorgeous, long carrot. Whoa, that got weird. All right. Rough chop a carrot and an onion and 4 ribs of celery. Precision chopping is a thing, but not today. This is going in the food processor. Pulse that until it's nice and fine and set it aside for later. Get yourself an orange, and we need half the zest and half the juice. I had a blood orange lying around, so I used that, but you definitely don't need to. You can use regular old navel orange. So set that aside and get yourself 100 grams of spicy pancetta. Mild will do. Pancetta is basically an unsmoked bacon, so we're going to use it to add extra depth of flavor to the ragu. 1/4 inch dice the pancetta and set that aside. And now for the star of the show, duck legs. So you can get duck legs on their own or buy whole duck like I did. It's much cheaper to buy the whole duck, and you can harvest the duck fat and a beautiful duck stock out of it later. Either way, peel the skin off and reserve that for later. Grab yourself a heavy bottom pot on medium heat and start to brown your duck legs on both sides. Once you've got some color on both sides of the duck leg, set them aside and toss in your pancetta into the same pot. Cook your pancetta until it almost looks too crispy. Then you're gonna add all your vegetables and cook for another 8 minutes or so and season with a healthy pinch of salt and pepper. Next, we're gonna deglaze with 1 cup of white wine and cook off the wine until it's mostly evaporated. Next, add in 1 teaspoon of crushed fennel seeds, 2 bay leaves, your orange juice and your orange zest, and 1 cup of passata or pureed tomatoes. Add in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and 1 liter of really good chicken stock. That's super important because that adds a lot of flavor. Bring all of that to a simmer on medium-high. Add your duck legs back in and turn your heat nice and low and simmer for 2.5 to 3 hours. Now, during that time, after 1 hour, we're gonna flip over the duck legs just to make sure that they get cooked evenly. And after the second hour, we're gonna add in 1 cup of milk and then continue to cook for the last 30 minutes and then pull the duck out at the 2.5 hour mark. Continue to reduce this sauce on low while the duck cools for a few minutes. Once they're cool enough, pull all the meat off the bones and make sure you get all the little guys because you don't want your date to choke. That would really ruin whatever you had planned after dinner. Chop up your duck and add it back to the sauce, and that sauce is done. For bonus points, we're gonna make a crispy duck skin topping for the pasta. So take the skin that you pulled off the duck legs and cut it into manageable pieces and then fry the duck skin on medium-low heat until it's completely crispy. You don't want any kind of uncooked fat left at all. Then you want to remove it, drain it, cool it, and let it dry completely. Salt it generously, mince up your duck rinds, and then mix it with a pinch of oregano and some Parmesan. And this is going to make an incredible kind of breadcrumb-like topping for your pasta. You can do all of this the day ahead, and the sauce is actually better on the second day. And I highly recommend it since it leaves you time for other things on Valentine's Day, like cooking pasta. This is pappardelle, and it's like super fettuccine, and it works great for a chunky sauce like ragu. So in some heavily salted water, boil your pasta until it's not quite cooked, and then drain it and add it to your ragu along with just a splash of the pasta water. Toss it all together, and then over medium heat, cook it until it all comes together and sticks to the pasta. Then you want to plate it up with a healthy grating of Parmesan and your crispy duck rinds, and you're ready to impress whoever's lucky enough to be your date. Now, Valentine's Day wouldn't be complete without a sexy chocolate dessert, so this is a simple way to make an egg-free cheater mousse that's actually technically a ganache. So we're going to start by weighing out 215 grams of your favorite semi-dark-ish chocolate and place that over a double boiler to melt. Make sure the water is simmering gently and the bowl's not touching the water. Next, add 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne and 1/8 of a teaspoon of guajillo chili powder. If you don't know the guajillo, just leave it out. Don't sub it for regular chili powder because that stuff has garlic in it and you don't want that in this. The cayenne alone will do just fine. While that's melting, weigh out 250 grams of heavy 35% whipping cream into the bowl of a stand mixer and whip the cream on medium, but be careful. We don't want to go to a full stiff peak here. You just want it kind of the texture of yogurt. Once your chocolate is completely melted, fold in 1/3 of the cream and place it back on the double boiler for 3 minutes until all of the chocolate has remelted. Then add the second third of the cream and repeat that process. And after that second go is nice and melted, remove it from the double boiler and gently fold in the last of the cream. You can pour this directly into small mason jars or bowls or whatever you want to serve them in the next day. Or if you're super extra like me, you can put it in a piping bag if you want to show off. And then it has to sit in the fridge overnight. And the next day, to serve it, just top it with whipped cream and a nice grating of chocolate or a dash of paprika just for color, and that's it. Both of these dishes are incredibly easy to finish the day of and will guarantee to impress. And leave you lots of time for other important Valentine's Day activities. And if you're super extra like me, you can make tuiles and plate the dessert like a fancy pants. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and stick around if you want to learn how to harvest gold from a duck. Oh boy. All right, bonus time. Okay, we're gonna make some duck stock here. So start off with 4 cloves of garlic, about 2 onions, 1 carrot, 4 or 5 ribs of celery, whatever you have lying around. It doesn't have to be super accurate or anything like that. Get some peppercorns and some bay leaves and a little bit of rosemary if you got it. Fresh is better. And then we're gonna take all of our carcasses and put them in the oven. Nice and hot, 425, 450, whatever. And you're gonna roast them for probably close to like 45 minutes to an hour, because you really wanna get a lot of color on them. You want a nice dark brown. So if they're not quite there, put them back and keep going until they are crispy. Once your bones are looking like this, pull them out and put them in your biggest stock pot. And once you've got them all situated there, we're going to top up the water. And when you throw your water into your stock pot, add in your peppercorns and your rosemary and your bay leaves. You don't need too much water because we're going to be adding in vegetables later. It'll bring up it'll kind of fill in like small rocks around big rocks, and it'll bring your water level above where it starts off. So you can kind of bring it just up to the top of the bones. It doesn't need to be too much higher than that. In the same pan that you did your bones in, we're going to add all of our vegetables in and throw it back into our oven. You kind of want the same result with the vegetables. You want them nice and broken down and nice and brown and caramelized and gorgeous looking. Vegetables aren't quite there. You want them darker than that. Throw in a couple tablespoons of tomato paste, and then once they're nice and caramelized, I like to throw in like 1/4 cup, 1/2 cup of red wine, and then scrape all of the good little bits off the bottom of the pan, because that's where all your flavor is. And then basically you're just going to let it simmer. You don't want it to boil. You just want it to be nice and hot. And so I'll leave it around like 1 or 2 on the stove. Then you just let it go for 8 hours. Once it's done, strain it out, and you have a beautiful duck stock. And I actually had a couple of ham bones in there as well. No big deal. Whatever you got lying around in the freezer makes a beautiful stock that you can use for soups or reduce it down or whatever you want to do. When it comes to duck fat, super easy. Just take all your extra bits of skin and just cook them. Just cook them until all the fat comes out and there's nothing left. Strain that through a little strainer and set it aside and keep that, because it's the best cooking oil you got for potatoes or whatever. And then lastly, here's a little footage of me actually breaking down the duck. So I basically kind of cut down the middle of it to separate the breast from the thighs, just so that I could work with those alone. And then essentially you're just kind of peeling it, and the duck skin comes off with a little more difficulty than like chicken skin. It's got a lot more connective tissue, so kind of had to cut my way through, but it's not very hard and it's pretty forgiving. It's not a difficult task. It just took me about, I don't know, 20 minutes to do 2 ducks. And pretty much you pay as much as you would for 2 ducks as you would for 2 legs separately. So it's totally worth it, because you get all the fat and all the stock and all the goodies. And that's it. So hope you guys enjoyed.